Yes, we didn't draft him 1 overall to ride the pine. I know it's a lot to put on his back, but that's why we drafted him. Now, that is somewhat interesting when you consider that Cardinals coach Cliff Kingsbury then had this to say yesterday when asked the same question on Jim Rome's show. We'll see. We're still working through all those things. We have Brett Hundley here, who we're very excited about, but we'll see where that kind of goes. And so we'll bring Dominique Foxworth back into the conversation. And here's an Arizona organization that is already reeling. Let's face it, they're reeling. They get a lot of positive PR out of bringing in the number 1 pick. But it cannot be overlooked that this is an organization that last year hired a coach and traded up to draft a quarterback in the top 10, and both of them are now gone, and they got next to nothing for them. So what do we make of the fact that now the GM and the coach seem to have different public opinions on the quarterback?
My message to Steve Keim is this is not your job. You're the GM. The coach is supposed to decide these things. And not only is this not your job, you're making the job more difficult for Cliff Kingsbury. You're undermining his authority by making these public statements. I had the good fortune of signing as a free agent with Ozzie Newsome, who's probably the best general manager in the modern football era. And that's not something he would ever do. It's not something he would ever accept. When players came to him to try to talk about on-field issues, he would say, I'm not the coach. No matter the fact that he had already put together 2 Super Bowl championship teams and countless Hall of Famers, he recognized that he had a job to do and he was going to do it. He wasn't trying to be all up in the videos like Steve Keim is.
I like that quote. Okay, here's my thing. You know how in the South, and maybe you guys don't know this, but they say, hide your crazy? Well, what's happening right here is Cliff Kingsbury is showing his college instead of hiding his college. This is a very college thing to say, and I've really been on his team. I've said I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to be successful. I still feel that way as a coach, but this was a moment where he showed his college and said, here, this is what we do in college. We don't name starters. They have to start Kyler Murray game 1. You drafted him number 1 overall. He fits in the system that they want to use there with Cliff Kingsbury. And also, they wanted Kyler Murray before they wanted Kingsbury. That information's come out more and more. Steve Keim liked Kyler Murray before he even wanted to hire the coach from college.
I have so many thoughts on all of this. First of all, Kyler Murray may wind up being a great quarterback, and that does not necessarily mean he has to start week 1. Patrick Mahomes, who is the model that everyone is trying to compare him to and the absolute dream scenario, sat for an entire year behind Alex Smith in Kansas City before then taking over on a great team with a coach who's probably going into the Hall of Fame. That's a vastly different circumstance than Kyler Murray taking over for a coach who didn't win games when he was in college, an offensive line that almost got the previous guy killed, and they earned the number 1 pick in the draft by being the worst team in the sport. It might not be in Kyler Murray's best interest or the team's for him to be the starter week 1.
I agree, and I think there are a lot of reasons why they cannot emulate the Kansas City model, and all of them fall on Steve Keim's shoulders. Because like you mentioned, the system, there were playmakers there for him to step into. There's a team ready to accept him, and Steve Keim has failed in putting all that together. And not very many people are hearing quotes from general managers at the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, that brings us then to the more important part of this conversation. Did I miss a meeting? When did general managers all of a sudden start becoming conversationalists on everything?
They're celebrities now, Greeny. They're out here, they're talking on podcasts, they're on radio shows all the time.
That's true.
It's weird. I don't understand it either.
I had this old philosophy I used to use all the time on the old show. Poor people want to be rich, and rich people want to be famous. I think these guys have all decided now they want to be celebrities, and I don't understand it for the life of me. Look at the quote, the specifics of the quote from Steve Keim. We didn't draft him number 1 overall to ride the pine. What does that sound exactly like? We didn't sign Odell to trade him, and then they traded him. It's the same sentence, just with a different name involved. And both of these are self-inflicted wounds. Why are they talking in the first place?
And maybe Kingsbury is trying to protect Kyler Murray a little bit and say, hey, I don't want to put all of these expectations on you.
Yeah, no, we're getting more and more quotes from GMs in the offseason than I'm used to. So we got Keim, and then we got Gettleman, and we got Colbert, and they're just talking. Then we got Bruce Allen. They're just talking and talking. I think that they don't understand the point I made earlier. Do your job. They're trying to do everybody's job. You can't be media relations, the coach, and the GM. Just be the GM and fall back.
That's exactly right. So the last thing in the world we need to do is hear from another football general manager. Actually, take that back. Let's hear from another football general manager. Our NFL front office insider is Mike Tannenbaum. See, he's not anyone's GM right now, so he can talk as much as he wants. And let me just throw that out there. You're hearing the conversation. I can see you're laughing. What do you make of this? When you were the GM of the Jets, I remember thinking, I don't even know what his voice sounds like. When did this start?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's exactly right. I agree with what Dominic said as well. I guess I could speak now, Greeny, right, because I'm your GM. But yeah, our job is to collect talent, and then once the season begins, or really now that they're on the field, it really should be the head coach and quarterback that are the forward-facing people of your organization. And I agree with what Laura said as well, which is I think Kingsbury was trying to protect Murray a little bit, but look, the hay's out of the barn. Kyle Murray's the face of the franchise. If you look at recent memory, be it Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, those guys start on opening day. Kyle Murray has to go play, but that's really the head coach to decide, and Steve Keim should go get the players, and then let the head coach and quarterback take it from there.
Let me ask you more about that, because you had a relatively similar circumstance when you were the GM of the Jets. You guys traded up to take Mark Sanchez, and he was the Week 1 starter. Now, there wasn't really, as I recall, on the roster that year another logical direction that you might have gone. But how much pressure is there realistically on an organization to start a high-profile rookie quarterback?
Yeah, in recent memory, going back to 2008, first-round quarterbacks average about 11 starts a year. So when you draft a guy, or in our case, when we traded up for Sanchez in 2009 to the 5th pick, our eggs were in his basket, and we were fortunate to have success early. So, every situation's a little bit different, like you guys were talking about. I agree, this isn't the Kansas City Chiefs, but ideally, like maybe with the Giants, they could wait a little bit on Daniel Jones because of obviously Eli Manning. But in Kyler Murray's situation, he's going to play, and whether or not they're, a successful franchise is going to be how well he plays. And Kingsbury and Murray now tied to the hip. And I agree, Steve Keim has gotten the players, he got the head coach, and now, let the players take over, let the coaches speak, and that's the way you really stay on the same page.